Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of creating a to-do list using ReasonReact. In part 1 of the video, we did the bare minimum, which is to display a list of items, and here they are. And as you can see here, it doesn't look too comfortable here. Probably we could have had a nested component display each of these LIs rather than squeezing everything into this render function. It's getting a bit crowded in here. But I'm going to go ahead and attack the typing something into an input text field and being able to add that to this list first and see where that takes us. So the first thing I want to do is get an input text field onto the screen. So maybe after the list, at the bottom of the list, we would have something like input type equal text, and let's see what that does. So that's having a compilation error. It's unfortunately not very helpful, and it's not telling us what's going on. So it's underlining this type thing, which is it's a reserved keyword. So I've seen examples where we need to sort of change it with an underscore. So now I can compile, and then if we refresh the screen, we see our text input, but we're missing our line items. And this is, I guess, one of those gotchas, is that Reason only returns the last value. So this div just sort of disappears, and it only renders this last thing. And so in order to render both of them, we would have to wrap them both in a div around both of them. Let's see if the autocomplete will fix it for me. No. Let's remove some of these things. Okay. So now we see them both. If this bothers you and you didn't want that extra structural div, another way of getting a single output is similar to what we had before when I was showing you the ReasonReact array. So ReasonReact array, let's see, ReasonReact array takes an array of React elements and returns a single React element. And so if this were the array, so let's change this into an array, this thing, and then this thing. If this were an array, actually, do I need the scope? I think I could just do this. It doesn't like that. Okay, what's going on here? Input type. Okay, don't need this div here. Okay, so we're passing in an array of React elements, and it returns a single React element. So, and it still works. This is some unrelated warning that we'll address sometime later. This is one way you can get these elements onto the page without wrapping it with an extra div around it. See, this does not have an extra div, but I don't really mind the extra div. I think this approach is a little bit messy looking, so let's put that back, re-render the page. So now you see this does have an extra div here, and these are nested within. Okay, so we have our input. If we type something, I want to be able to type something, hit enter, and have it go into this list. So one thing we should do is observe as we type. So as I type, I can add an onChange event handler that invokes something. So we grab the event. So this is a function. It takes an event, and then it sends an action, sends a message. So it would be self.send and then some action. But we don't have any action here. But what I would like is maybe call the action like I'm typing something. I'm typing a new string, and I want to get that from the input value. So the way to get that is through React event dot form dot target, pass it the event, and then use this funky buckle script syntax to get at the value. Okay, so it's formatted, but it doesn't recognize this thing. So we obviously haven't defined that type yet. So let's go do that. So now we're kind of leaving the world of the stateless component because we're going to have action and initial state. So this is going to be a reducer component, and we're going to define at the top the action. So that's type action is going to be one of these things. So it's going to be, well, typing, and it has this, I guess, an argument that is a string. Okay. So this is complaining because once you convert your stateless to a reducer component, it is going to want some other things. Contains type variables that cannot be generalized. The type of this. Okay, this error, I guess, is not that helpful. This error here is a little bit more helpful. This is saying this seems to be a ReasonReact reducer component. We don't have all the type info for its state. Okay, let's define what the state is. We have this internal array that we've been using, so maybe that's part of the state. But we also want this string that we're typing, that we're currently typing, that we want to keep track of. So there's two things in here. So there's items, which is an array of string at the moment, and then there are, it's the next item that I'm currently typing, which is just a string. So that's the state. In the make function for a reducer component, we should have an initial state, which returns that state, which is this record here. Let's see. Items will be just this. And the next item will just be an empty string. Okay, so then we won't need this thing. The output will just be self.state.items. Alright, so this actually compiled. It didn't complain that there was no reducer yet. So we're sending typing. Does this actually work? Okay, so I'm typing here, still nothing. So we are sending this message, but we don't have a reducer component, so we're not capturing it. So we want to add a reducer, which takes the action and the current state and returns the new state. So let's switch over the action, which can be typing and the, I guess, new string, and return a ReasonReact update, how you would like to update the state. So the state goes in here. So the new state will be, let's spread over the old state and just update the next item to be this new string. Okay. So that compiled, and if I come over here and start typing, I can't actually see anything, so I don't know if this is working. So even if I open up the console, here we go, console. I would like to see something here. So one way of doing this is use the update with side effects, and the second argument can then be something that logs to the console, which I think it wants the function to be self, and then maybe js.log, pass in that new string. Okay. So reload this. Now as I'm typing, it's going to the console. Okay, great. So I'm just a little bit closer to being able to add that item. So I need another action. So as I'm typing, that's one form of action, but maybe when I hit enter, that's another form of action. So that is add item. Let's see, I don't think it needs to take anything. Oh, maybe we do need to take something, because we need to know which, if the enter key was hit. So add item should take the, so we don't actually know if add item is taking place, but we do know if key down is taking place. So key down, and maybe give me the key code, which is an int. Oh, this doesn't need that. Okay, now how are we going to get that? So when we're typing in an input, we can have another event handler, which is on key down, I believe. Send another event, self.send. So this time we're sending key down. And how do we get that value? So we can get from the keyboard. React event dot keyboard dot what is it? What's available here? Character code. I believe it's character code. Let's try character code. We're sending this thing. It doesn't need an event. It needs an event. I think that's it. Okay. And over here, the compiler is warning us that the pattern matching is not exhausted because we have not declared every single case for it. So typing key down with the key code, do something with that. So let's do something. Let's just output it to the console log. So let's do something similar. Let's just pass back the current state, so we don't update that, but we can log the key code to the screen, to the console. So I'm typing. In between these are all zeros. That doesn't seem right. These are not different key codes, so I probably screwed something up. So React event keyboard dot something else. Control key. Key code. Probably what we want. Reload. So A, B, C. Yeah, that seems more like it. And if I hit enter, that's 13. So now we can pattern match on that. So if we key down, every other key we want to ignore. Just make it a no op. But when it is 13, what we want to do is update the state like so. Update. So the new state will be, you're going to add it to that array. So the state will be previous state, but the items will be the array dot append the previous array, which was self dot state state dot items, and add to that items, add to that a new array with the current next item, state.next item. So it's complaining because we still haven't matched all. Okay, so we've matched 13, but what happens if they type some other thing? So let me pattern match all the other key downs it could have, which we don't care about, and just ignore it. So ReasonReact, just say no update, no update. So now that I'm typing something, I hit enter, and yes, they are going in. Now it would be nice if every time I hit enter, this box is cleared. So right now this input value isn't tied to anything. So I could say that the value comes from self.state.next item. The autocorrect is so nice. And I do need to clear it. So as I'm typing into this update, I should say the next item is just empty string. And this complains because I've included every key in here, so it doesn't. I don't really need this the old state. Refresh this. So item 3, enter 4, enter. Yes, it's working. Okay, so this concludes part 2 of this video, where we're able to type something into an input box and add that to our list. And in part 3, we'll maybe add some more complexity, like maybe a checkbox that will be able to mark off those items on our to-do list which we have completed. So we'll address that in the next video.